Good afternoon. Welcome. I must get a device to switch on the camera without me leaning all over the place. Anyway, you're very welcome at home, at my home. You're very welcome and personal from me. Now, I want to get straight into this because honestly, loading these up takes an awful long time if they're too long and they'll probably become a bit too boring. So let me make the sound a little clearer, I think, put my head, because the reason I'm putting them in now is I forgot. We're going to talk today because I saw a newspaper today talking about the missing Madeleine McCann. Of course, you remember Madeleine McCann in Portugal, the young girl went missing 17 years ago. Oh my God, 17 years ago. So she's in her 20s by now. Anyway, a trial is starting in Germany with a young guy, well, I don't know how young he is, Christian Brucker, who is on trial, and I assume he's under suspicion of kidnapping and murdering Madeleine McCann. So we'll hear more of that, but it did trigger off. Why the hell? It's gone quiet, and it continues to go quiet on the missing Irish girl, Amy Fitzpatrick. Now, I know her aunt, and I've spoke to her many times on my radio show. Christine Kenny is the driving force keeping this alive. Without Christine Kenny doing this, let me tell you, it would never be heard of again. But she's missing, not a clue. And she's been missing she was 15 when she went missing. So she'd been missing she was 19. Well, what year was it? 2008 she disappeared. Extraordinary all this time, but not a clue. Not a clue. So let me go back a bit, and then there's a sort of a development that's happening. Amy Fitzpatrick was staying with her very, very, very close friend, and has always been a close friend. And you'll hear more of her, Ashley Rose. You'll hear more of her when the video is playing that I made a few years ago with her as my guest and with Christine Kenny as my guest. It'll play after this. But very quickly, Amy was... I say, very good friend. On New Year's Eve, Amy went to stay with Ashley, and they literally live a field apart, a 10 minutes walk, whatever. So she went to stay with her, etc., etc., etc. The next day, they were to go out shopping or something, but Ashley bid her farewell, good night, goodbye, and she wants to go back to see her mum, and she never heard of again. That was it. Never heard of again. Disappeared. Thin air. The case has been going on all this time, and there hasn't been a clue what's been going on. There has been things said about Ashley, about Amy. I actually want to read something here from her mother Audrey, and her stepfather is Dave Mahone. Now, she never liked her stepfather. Seemingly, she didn't get on with him at all. She couldn't stand him, actually. When Audrey, that's the mother, and Dave went back to Ireland, another family tragedy happened. Seemingly, Dean, who is the missing Amy Fitzpatrick's brother, I think he was a little older than Amy, I'm not sure. He was out on the street in Ireland talking or rowing with Dave Mahone, which on paper I suppose is a stepfather. Well, actually wasn't. I didn't marry at that stage. But anyway, he was the partner of his mother. And what happened? But Mahone ended up stabbing and killing him. Dead. He wasn't charged with murder, but manslaughter. Don't know how they ever conclude that. And he got 7 years in prison. That's just the start of the story. But I've interviewed Audrey, and I've interviewed Dave Mahone on my radio shows. I never took to this Dave Mahone. I didn't take much to Audrey. Imagine Audrey has a missing daughter and a dead son who was killed by her partner, and she ended up marrying Dave Mahone. What did Dean know? That it ended up Mahone killing him. What was it that Dean was talking about to Mahone that Mahone ended up stabbing him? I really don't know. I want to find this piece, and I find this extremely interesting. I've never heard it before. I never heard a word about this before. Now, where did I put it? Here. Oh, let me just get this back for you. Okay. In an interview with the Irish Mirror 2 years ago, Audrey, Amy's mother, shared some shocking information. Allegedly, Amy was paid by drug dealers to accompany them on drug runs. She said, "I didn't know anything about this. I was told she would sit in the front of the car to make it look like it was a young daughter. These men were in their 40s and 50s, and she sat there and got paid for just being there in the car." Audrey remembers that her daughter, Amy, often going out for long periods, but just assumed that she was just going out with friends to the shops and hanging around. Hold on a minute. Their daughter, who's 15, is on drug runs. Now, drug runs. So drug runs where? I don't believe if these drug barons or whoever the drug pushers, whatever you call them, if they wanted to have a sort of a young looking child in the front of the car so they just look like a family and they're doing a drug run, one thinks of customs, going through customs. You don't put a girl in the front of a car, a young girl in the front of the car. So if you're driving from San Pedro to Marbella, for what? For what? It doesn't mean you might as well drive in your own. So one must be going through customs. So that's not just, going out shopping for the afternoon. Where is your daughter? Where is your daughter, Audrey? This must be a day thing or a 2-day thing, and she's hanging around with these 50-year-old drug barons. Now, another thing that's come up, which I knew nothing about, okay? Another interesting thing. So I knew about this. I didn't know about that. But the night that she disappeared, when she went babysitting over to Ashley's house on New Year's Eve, she had her phone with her. Teenagers have their phone. Of course, she rang up her mum to wish her Happy New Year. But she disappeared, and that was it. But the phone was found in the mother and Mahone's house. So how did she disappear and she had the phone, and then all of a sudden the phone has just arrived in the house, but she still disappeared? It just, 2 and 2 make 5 here, for me. Anyway. But this case it's got to be kept alive. I mean, the Madeleine McCann case has been kept in the fore all the time. But Amy Fitzpatrick seems to have disappeared. It's so wrong. Why isn't more? Now, there was a suitcase. A suitcase. Did I make a note of this? Yes. There was a suitcase found up in Mijas. I think it was found near the Hippodromo racetrack. I'm not sure. It was last year. And bones were found in the suitcase, human bones. But the identification, they say, remains uncertain. Now, I always thought that DNA could immediately tell you exactly who those bones belong to. And there was a bag found, a satchel. And Audrey happens to say, that's the mother, that looks like something that Amy had. Looks like something that Amy had. Well, the problem they're having is that the bones are belonging to a 25-year-old person. I don't understand that. But what an extraordinary thing. I just wish some Irish billionaire would come forward, and I know a few of them, not personally, and say, look, I'm going to put money into this case. Bring in, like they did for Madeleine McCann, private detectives, etc., etc. I think at times there was some detectives working, but it's going to be kept at until she's gone. She's disappeared. And it seems the press aren't interested anymore. The police, I believe, aren't interested anymore. So that's it. Finished. Now, I've kept this whole story alive for years when I was on the radio, and then, of course, here on social media, and it's going to go out again on social media. So, again, if anyone knows anything about this, come forward. Please. You can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with the police. But I know that I know. I mean, honestly, Christine Kenny, the auntie. If it wasn't for her, she's the one that's keeping this whole thing alive. And Christine, if you're listening to this, how are you? And remember, I will always be here to support in the best way I can. Anyway, thanks for joining me at home this evening, and look forward to hearing from you. And could you just imagine this little tiny broadcast now? We could find Amy. Of course, the dream would be to find her alive. But anyway, could you imagine if it was your daughter? Thanks for joining me. Speak to you later. Just switch this off.